Hey guys, Jay Doran, CEO Culture Matters. I'm here with Kyree Tyrell, CEO and founder of My New Philly. And today we're talking about his personal brand, who he is, where he comes from, what his story is. And I'm really just curious to hear about it, man.
Yes, indeed. I mean, the brand, mynewphilly.com, is a all essential and positive news platform. I basically saw a void in not just Philadelphia, but a lot of major cities in news content that would push the people forward and actually inform the people. I think the root word of news is new, and a lot of news platforms don't show people what's new in their town, right? So we took an approach that is modern day, socially and video driven. That's all we do is video content, and everything is funneled through social media. And we're telling people what's new, what's hot, what's hip, what's happening in your city. We don't report on violence or crime ever. We don't report on corruption or fires or car accidents or any of that type of stuff. Not from an insensitive approach. I mean, big cities, those things are going to happen. And we do believe that they do have a place in the news, but we don't believe that it should be your full hour of news every day, right? You should get some things that enhance and enrich your lifestyle as it pertains to your immediate surroundings. And I think, one of the biggest brands that was successful in doing that, if you look at it this way, is Facebook. Facebook found out or were the first to realize that, at that time when you used to get on a chat room, you used to be talking, it was ASL, age, sex, location. You used to have to make friends on the internet. You had to find out where people were. And that stuff was just fleeting. You next day, you're not looking for that person that was in Iowa in 19 or 20, however old we were. You wanted to talk to people you knew. Right? And it was proven to me before I knew the concept of Facebook, because I remember when I was in college, me and my friends used to plan to go in a chat room at the same time so that you were there with your buddies, right?
Yeah.
So My New Philly does the same type of thing in that if you can search it now, most Google searches are people looking for things around them, right? They're not looking for things. It's interesting how the World Wide Web, when it first was created, people were looking for things worldwide.
Out there.
People were looking for things really far away. But now most searches are for things close to those people's home or close to somewhere they'll be traveling to, right? So what we did is we created a news platform that informs people about their immediate surroundings.
That's interesting.
Things off to a great start. We're 20 months old. We'll be 2 in July 2017. We're right now the fastest growing news media outlet in Philadelphia. And I say that by clicks and views and those sorts of things. Where I come from, a little bit about my background, I'm actually a former model, actor, turned director, filmmaker, etc. I just saw that there was a lot more opportunity for me if I were to create my own path rather than continue to wait for people to cast me. Yeah. Right? So I grew very, very anxious and very, very, I don't want to say upset, but just like I wasn't in control of my own destiny by going to castings and getting it sometimes and wasting my money other times and those types of things. So, one day I kind of was playing for second in a competition and I had no idea. The first place winner was like a friend of the guy who put the competition on. His father was anyway. And I later found out, I was playing for second place, and that just was it was a immediate, 180 for me. I said, this last time I'm gonna let anything else control my own destiny. And I always wanted to be a filmmaker, but I always talked myself out of it mentally, saying it was a rich man's game, and I couldn't afford it, and I couldn't go back to school, and all those sorts of things. And that day, that car ride home, I changed my mind.
So at that moment, you made a decision then to what?
Definitely, I made a decision to be a filmmaker. And at that time, I had been in front of thousands of cameras. I'd never been behind one. I didn't know a thing about lighting. I didn't know a thing about sound. I didn't know a thing about cameras and speeds and everything else you need to know. But I knew I was going to learn it. I think there's infinite power in just making a choice, and not having a plan B, but just making a choice to do that thing. I think in a day and age that we live in, there's nothing you can't make money off of, right? I don't care what your passion is, there's an angle that you can make and sustain a living doing that thing. And I was fortunate enough to learn that around the age of 25. I was unfortunate not to learn it a little bit sooner, but the way I came up, I didn't have any mentors, I didn't have any father figures, I didn't have any role models until I was about 28, So there was a ton of things that I didn't learn that I had to learn on my own due to my upbringing. I'll talk about really briefly. I was in my first foster home when I was 3. From that moment until I was 17, I would be in and out of the foster care system, group home system, shelters, friends and family, et cetera, et cetera. I only lived with my biological mother for about 3 or 4 years out of my life. And then my biological father was incarcerated from the time I was 2 months up until I was around 28, 29, and he was released, but only because he was sick and he would die later, so we never had a relationship. All that time, I was left to really fend for myself. I was left to learn business for myself, learn women for myself, learn life for myself. And it didn't start, dawning on me that there was an actual path to success. There's an actual blueprint to success. When I was younger, I was thinking, people were just hitting the lottery. People were just getting lucky. People just, met the right person and bam, their business took off. I didn't understand that, there's self-help books, there's tutorials, there's the internet, thank goodness, in our generation. There's so many things that you can use to force success upon yourself. And it wasn't until, like I said, I was almost 30 until I started to learn and understand that. So I had a late start based on my upbringing, but I'm fortunate now that I know that I have to be a hustler and I have to get things done, quickly. You know? And that's just in my DNA. I mean, my mother was addicted to crack for 25 years. The last 10 years of her life, she's gotten 2 master's degrees. She owns multiple properties, owns her car, all sorts of things. In 10 years, she was able to take herself from nothing, literally, to where she is today in 10 years. Most people don't do those things in a lifetime.
Reminds me of Susie Orman, who's living in her car in her 50s, or late 40s, early 50s, and she decided to get her life together.
Okay.
And now she's, on TV teaching people how to become millionaires.
You got to put me up
Put
on
money
it.
to the side.
Yeah,
I'll have to share that with you. So now let's go full circle to My New Philly.
Well,
how you ended up starting it. And you said something earlier about how most people started getting on the internet to search outwardly, but they end up searching inwardly. There's almost like a metaphor there. It's like you're the founder. And do you feel at this point that you kind of know yourself? And that's reflected in the business?
I do. I think I know myself, and to take it a step further, I think I know to think about my future self, right? And what I mean by that is I think everyone, if you're 30, 40, 50, 60, I think everyone can look at themselves and really assess that they're someone different than they were 10 years before, right? And I don't mean at your core, but I mean you've learned some things along that last decade that change your mind or your path or your thought processes, etc. So I've not only learned who I am, but I've also learned that I may not be the same exact person 10 years from now. So I'm open to learning. I'm open to hearing from other things. I'm that person that knows that I don't know everything rather than thinking I know everything, because life has shown me that if I really think back to when I was 25 and the moves I was making then versus now I'm 35 and the moves I'm making now, I'm a totally different person. Different things are valued to me, different things motivate me, and at 25, I wouldn't have told you I would think that way at 35. So that tells me that at 45, I may be saying some of the same thing to you.
It reminds me of, I was watching something on Facebook the other day. Matthew McConaughey gave a speech at the Oscars, and he said, he's always chasing his future self.
That's deep. That's powerful.
He's always chasing his future self, and he'll never catch his future self.
Right.
It's like one of the most profound. And the quote that I will never forget is, it's hard to see the whole picture when you're in the frame.
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
It's hard to see the whole picture when you're in the frame. Now, one thing that popped in my mind, and if you haven't read this book, I'm going to recommend it to you. I'll have to find it. It's Carol Dweck wrote Mindset. It's about a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Fixed mindset, especially in leadership, you own a company like myself and other people watching. When you're developing people and you're in a fixed mindset, someone eventually may end up growing above you. And then we got that E-myth we were talking about.
Right.
And then they start their own business. And we all been there. I remember you told me their story, and we'll share it on the next video, how you worked for that company. And then you started your own.
Right.
However, Carol makes a she's a PhD, super genius. A very valid point that with the growth mindset, as long as you're always growing, everyone growing with you.
Right. Makes sense.
So guys, I hope this was of value to you. This is Kyree Tyrell, founder of My New Philly. You can obviously see there's more than meets the eye with this guy. He's not just strong here, he's strong here and everywhere. Doran, CEO Culture Matters. You can check my man out where?
You check me out at mynewphilly.com. That's the first place I want you to go. You know, check out all of our content. We're also on Instagram with our videos, Facebook with our videos. Everything's at mynewphilly, and I'm at Kyree Tyrell.
Awesome. Jay Doran, Culture Matters, you guys have a great day.